So thank you very much for being here again. I know the afternoon gets later, but you're still hanging in there, so that's very good. So thank you. We're very happy to welcome Angelo Violetti, and he's of SEC Consult, as you can see, a security consultant with a lot of experience, I've seen, and he will talk about countering the threat actors behind Black Basta Ransomware. So thank you very much. And just for organization, you will have a little bit, couple of minutes to ask your questions after the talk. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angelo Violetti, and today we are talking about Black Basta, that is a very well-known ransomware group, and especially how we can try to exploit the human factor also behind the criminals that are part of the Black Basta group. So just first of all, some information about myself. I joined Seconsult last year. I've got some experience in the FIR, almost 4 years. During my free time, I also support the DFIR report in some engagements. I have a master's degree in cybersecurity and then a bunch of security certifications like GCFA and also some offensive certs. So let's go into the topic. We will cover mainly 6 parts. So first of all, we will have a brief introduction of the ransomware ecosystem, then the human-operated ransomware, and then we will go a little bit into Black Basta, how we can counter the guys behind Black Basta, and then some recommendation. And we will finish off with some key events that happened during the last month that were like very strictly related to Black Basta and other groups. So first of all, I guess that every one of you heard about ransomware as a service. It is basically an ecosystem. And as you can see, we have a bunch of actors in this game. So first of all, what we should try to understand is that behind every attack nowadays, especially in ransomware, there are humans, so individual criminals that are part of wider groups that nowadays are basically structured as mother companies. So we have got like sectors and people that work only on a specific objectives. Here we can see some of those like actors behind the ecosystem. We will have the initial access brokers that are usually their usual objective is just compromise companies that can be through malware, phishing, and then sold this access to other gangs. And then we will have the core, basically, of the ransomware operators, and then affiliates. So with ransomware operators, we are talking about the guys that develop the actual ransomware, so the software that is encrypting the data. Then they manage the infrastructure where the data is basically exfiltrated. Then they also recruit affiliates, and then they gain a percentage of, obviously, the money that the company pay for the ransom. Then there are the ransomware affiliates. So basically, those are the guys that basically perform the technical activities, so the actual attack. We call them those activities post-exploitation. So then after buying an access to a company through an initial access broker, they obviously gain privileges, exfiltrate data, and then encrypt it. And obviously, then in the end, there is the communication part with the client where the affiliates try to get the money from the victim. At the end of the cycle, we have got money launderers. So obviously, try to launder the money made through the attacks. So let's start already with some recommendation based on the characteristic that we see every day in ransomware attacks. So first of all, what's the main objective of ransomware attack? Obviously, gain money. because they are humans, so they like money. Every one of us likes money. So obviously, the financial gain really depends on the number of victims and their size. So first recommendation, I know it's a little bit controversial this point. However, I would like to say that paying ransom means funding further criminal actions, because otherwise, if you do not pay, there is no financial gain for them. And obviously, paying the ransom makes this type of activity profitable. Then the second characteristic is that it's crucial for ransomware gangs to encrypt business critical data, because that's the way for them to get your money. So what's really important for every company is to know where their data resides and also how to protect it. Then we go to other two main characteristics of ransomware group that are very specific. So in order to perform a successful attack, as we do also in companies and for SOC services, for also the blue team, they have got playbooks. So basically, those playbooks define every step that an affiliate should take in order to achieve the attack. And obviously, they use reliable tools that can also evade your security tools, for example, EDRs, antiviruses, etc. Obviously, how we can counter those playbooks and all the steps that are taken by the attackers, the knowledge of all the TTPs and the tools used by ransomware groups. It's worth to mention that most of the TTPs and tools are also shared between ransomware gangs. Therefore, like knowing the main tools and TTPs is already a good knowledge. Then, last point, in order to perform an attack efficiently and then to gain basically the first characteristic that we talked about, so financial gain, which depends on the number of victims, they try to exploit the easiest misconfiguration and vulnerability, because in this way they can gain faster their objective and obviously encrypt your data. So faster is the attack, higher is the number of victims, and obviously higher could be the financial gain for them. So obviously minimize the number of misconfiguration and vulnerability can really help companies to protect themselves from those type of attacks. And obviously, this could slow down the attack and make it inefficient. And we want to make those type of attacks inefficient because it would reduce their financial gain. So let's go into Black Basta. So Black Basta is a ransomware as a service that was firstly discovered in April 2022 and quickly gained a lot of notoriety due to the high number of victims. So here you see a brief description of the steps that they take. So that could be also described in the playbooks that we talked about before. So there is usually an initial access provided by an initial access broker called TA577, which spread malwares that are called Quackbot, Picabot, but then we will see later on also other tools. Then they deploy other malwares called Cobalt Strike and SystemBC to basically establish a connection from the compromised company to the external infrastructure owned by the threat actors. Then they start enumerating the infrastructure, gaining persistence, compromising other users' credentials that will be useful, obviously, to gain access to critical servers, and then in the end, exfiltrate the data and also encrypt it. So let's go a little bit deeper into the TTPs that are used by this ransomware group. So before we talk about Quackbot, Quackbot was their main malware used for gaining access into an infrastructure. Usually Quackbot is delivered by email, so the TA basically spread zip files that then contain further stages of the malware. For example, in this case, WScript, PowerShell, and then in the end, they will download the final payload, so Quackbot. So in this case, they gain access, and this phase is basically covered by the initial access broker. Then we go to the ransomware affiliate. So basically, the initial access browser sell the access to the affiliate, and they install Cobalt Strike. Cobalt Strike is the most common process exploitation framework used by threat actors because it has high defense evasion capabilities. Also, it's very reliable. I mean, in the end, it's a commercial tool, so it's very, very good for this purpose. And then they also use other type of malwares, for example, SysMBC. SysMBC is like a proxy, so they use it to download all their tools, exfiltrate data, and gain access then in other ways to your infrastructure. Mainly, SysMBC is used to download their tools, for example, the ones that are used in the next stages, for example, Blowdown, that is useful to enumerate the Active Directory infrastructure. Now, let's start talking about what actually company can do to protect from these three phases. So first of all, in order to prevent phishing attacks or try to minimize them, awareness activities. And then we have got some remediation actions or like more preventions that I would like to highlight. Those does not in the end cost money, but just effort for the company, because those are native functionalities provided by Windows. So basically, those stuff can be enabled from tomorrow and then can minimize your risk of these techniques. So we have got restrict the usage of PowerShell, harden PowerShell, for example, enabling the language mode, enable attack surface rules that basically can allow you to block some malicious executions, but also there is the Windows firewall that is enabled directly on your laptop and can block processes for making connection. And obviously, for example, if we take a look at the PowerShell script that downloads and execute the DLL, in this case, we could block PowerShell to make external connection, so we prevent the download of the DLL. Then going to the monitoring phase, what we have noticed is that Black Basta uses a lot DNS Cobalt Strike beacon. What does it mean? Cobalt Strike has two different types of beacons that could be HTTPS and DNS, specifically for egress traffic. So basically, the traffic goes from your company to outside. And we created these regex that could be used to parse your DNS logs and try to detect the domains that are used for DNS Cobalt Strike beacons. Then, obviously, we have got some detection rules here. That's a very important point because since most of the ransomware group use Cobalt Strike, if you are able to detect the techniques used by this tool, you can cover pretty much all the ransomware groups that are out there. And then last, like very tiny thing, but also can be useful. Black Basta usually hide the SysMBC malware into TXT files. So you will see, for example, systembc.txt that is in reality an executable file. So my suggestion will be try to hunt for files that try to masquerade themselves into other type of files. Then let's go in the middle of the attack. The threat actors enumerate the infrastructure. This could include Active Directory enumeration, enumeration of the available shares, soft perfect network scanner, the name tells for itself, basically a port scanner, and then they enumerate the ADR of antivirus software that you have got installed in your laptop or servers. So after basically gaining a picture of your environment, the first step is obviously try to gain more privileges. So it means obviously domain admin. One of the first attacks that they do basically 95% of the time and works, the 94% of the time is Kerberosing. Kerberosing is one of the easiest way to get domain admin privileges. Therefore, in this way, most of the time, like just after one day, they already have enough privileges to do whatever they want in your infrastructure, and they use the credential compromise through Kerberos hosting then to also dump further credentials. Maybe, for example, to get access to the backup infrastructure. Then, since they enumerated the antivirus and DDR, but usually Windows Defender is used. Therefore, they disable Windows Defender most of the times. And then they also use some legitimate remote management softwares, for example, AnyDesk. Why? Because they are not hard to detect, but usually are also using the daily job of an administrator. Therefore, they can be hidden very well. I mean, in the end, in the baseline of your infrastructure. So, how we can prevent specifically the phase of the credential compromise? Always use strong password for service accounts. That's basically one of the most important recommendations that I've written in those slides, and then can be really a game changer. And then also apply the least privilege principle for service account. Don't give to the service account domain admin privileges. Going to the monitoring phase, since every time that an initial access broker gain access to an infrastructure, but also the ransomware affiliate, they always have to enumerate the infrastructure that's basically needed to understand where they are. So defining detection rules can be really important, but also detection rules when the threat actors try to disable Windows Defender or the tools that you have installed. And then if you know which remote management tools are used by your administrator, also try to detect the usage of all the other RRM tools that are out there, since they are likely abused during an attack. Then I wanted also to give some recommendation that, as we said before, can exploit the human factor also behind the threat actor. However, we need to mention that in order to apply those deception actions, we need to have some maturity behind. Because, first of all, we need to collect logs. We need to have, for example, SIM in order to generate alerts. So we already need some requirements. However, if you are in this situation, I will suggest to you to create fake Kerberos accounts and idly monitor for them, because if you get compromised and then the threat actors try to exploit Kerberos, in this way they will for sure try to abuse this user, and you will get the alert. Also, what you can do is, for example, create accounts with password in the description. So when a threat actor will try to abuse that password, you will have an alert. And also create decoy files in shared folders. So why not creating, I don't know, password.xls file containing fake password, and every time a user clicks on it, you will have an alert. But as I said, you need to generate logs, collect them, and then obviously also the alerts are really needed. Then going into the latest phase, by abusing the credentials that they have compromised during the previous techniques used, they still abuse basically Cobalt Strike in order to connect to other servers into the infrastructure, because usually the first point of access is the laptop, and what they need is to gain access to servers that obviously contain, as we said before, business critical data. So with the credentials that they're compromised, they can do that, and obviously infect more servers until they have got like enough access, enough visibility on your data that they could start like performing the exfiltration. The exfiltration is usually performed through a legitimate tool called rclone. Why rclone? Because it's very efficient, very reliable, and it can exfiltrate data to whatever service that you would like. Azure, AWS, Mega, your SFTP server, whatever. So it's a great tool to perform this task. So obviously, by abusing the information collected during the previous phase, so your shares, they can start collect data and then exfiltrate it. Obviously, after doing this phase, there's just one thing remaining. Encrypting the servers and the laptops. And the main technique to widespread the ransomware in the infrastructure is group policy objects. And obviously, this can be achieved through the users that were compromised before. And obviously, then the GPO will spread the Black Basta ransomware on the servers and the laptops. And the attack is completed. So in order to prevent, detect, or remediate these last phases, what we can do is obviously, and those first 2 points are really important, backup balance, eventually, if you got encrypted, and crisis management procedures. So you know what you should do if a ransomware in general, not only Black Basta, encrypts your infrastructure. Third point, protect your virtualized environments, because nowadays ransomware groups started to really focus on virtualized environments, because by just encrypting one system, they can encrypt all the virtual machines that are there. So it's really efficient and also has a huge impact on the company. And then encrypt the company data so you can prevent the exfiltration of. If they exfiltrate data, it's encrypted. Then going into the monitoring phase, it's really important to being able to detect the lateral movements performed through Cobalt Strike. And I know that we are talking about Cobalt Strike 10 times, but it's the main tools. And if your company is able to detect it, you did a good job. Then obviously, define detection rules also for rclone. And then a thing that comes after using Cobalt Strike, what happens is that you can find in your environment logs a strange behavior. So since Cobalt Strike can relay traffic, so what does it mean? Is that basically the agent can relay the traffic from the command and control server into the environment. What you will see is that when they try to log in into other servers, you will find logins coming from systems that do not have the host name like your systems. So usually, since command and control servers, especially the ones that have Windows operating system, have a host name like Win star. So usually it starts with Win. If you create a detection rule for logins not coming with a host name that is basically compliant with your way of naming host names, it could be a great way to detect malicious logins. And then if you get encrypted, obviously the first phases of our remediation plan are scope the incident, try to understand what happened, isolate the systems, and then start an incident response activity. So some more recommendations that can be more like a plan or a strategy to countering, like in general, ransomware attacks. First of all, know your maturity. So understand your capabilities in identifying attacks and also being able to respond to them. For example, there is a service that we deliver called IRMA that tries to understand what's your maturity, what should be your target, and obviously trying to figure out how you can achieve a better position in identifying and responding to cybersecurity incidents. Then obviously performing periodic assessment in trying to detect and remediate the vulnerability and misconfigurations, especially, as we said, the most common ones. Then having technologies, for example, EDRs and also MDR services can help in identifying those types of attacks. Obviously, they cannot cover the 100% of them. However, I need to admit that most of them are really good tools and that can really help you in identifying the early stages of an attack, but also preventing the encryption phase. Then war games, so basically simulate real-life scenario attacks in order to test your processes and also communication during the incident. Then purple teaming, so during a purple teaming activity, the blue team and red team collaborate a lot in order to basically simulate the TTPs that we saw before, but also verify if the company is actually able to detect them. And obviously, then trying to identify improvement actions based on the identified gaps. And then, last but not least, if you need it, adopt a rapid response team that can help you in managing the incident if the ransomware is actually able to encrypt your infrastructure. Then, going at the end of the presentation, so during the last months, there were a lot of key events for Black Basta, but also for the main initial access broker that sell the access to the Black Basta affiliates. But let's start from June. So on the 16th of June, a threat actor called Rastafari announced a new malware called Darkgate Loader on XSS and Exploit. Those two websites are basically websites that are used by criminals in order to promote their malwares, sell exploits, credentials, and also obviously sell stuff and promote what they do. On the 22nd of August, there was a really important event for Black Basta. Why? Because they published the last August victim. So from there until the 11th of October, there was basically a pause of Black Basta activities. And now we will figure out why. Because on the 25th of August, so 3 days after the last victim, the FBI disrupted the Quackbot infrastructure used by TA577. And if you recall, obviously, the first slide, you can understand that if FBI disrupted the Quackbot infrastructure, obviously also Black Basta is impacted in a way or another. Then what has been noticed by a lot of threat intelligence researchers and also malware analysts, that TA577 started spreading Darkgate malware, the one that was announced on the in June. And then just a few days after, researchers found that TA577 started delivering other malwares, and not just Quackbot and Pickabot, but also IceID and Darkgate. So basically, after the FBI disrupted the Quackbot infrastructure, TA577 switched basically the main malwares to deliver and moved to those. So obviously for companies nowadays, it's really important to be aware that those will be the main malwares used by this initial access broker group. Obviously, it doesn't mean that Black Basta will exploit those malwares. We know that for sure they are using Picabot that is really close to Quackbot, very, very similar. So far, we do not have like clear evidences that they are using Darkgate and IceID, but I mean, it could obviously happen that they will start abusing them if they are not doing it right now. And then on the 11th of October, they come back publishing new victims, a lot of new victims. So we can see that there was a post-duty activity performed by the FBI, and then they restarted back again their activities. So I finished my time, but since there is a break, maybe we can take 2 minutes for any questions.
Yes, sorry, we will run a bit late, so maybe we can get 1 or 2 very, very quick questions. Here, please. We have a micro, please.
You said you talked a lot about access brokers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the prices are?
The price really depends on the company, the size of the company. Usually $10. It's an RDP credential. $10, $15, max 20. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you compromise a huge bank that is worldwide, I mean, obviously, it will cost more. But I mean, like a company that is 500 employee, it could cost an RDP credential around $20.
Okay. I have maybe one more question. What type of trend do you see as a third extortion?
So they are still using a lot the double extortion because, first of all, it works. I mean, it has been working for many years. They still get a lot of money. If you, for example, check the reports about the Conti leaks, you will see that those affiliates and operators already got a lot of money because the Bitcoin wallets were publicly available. There were a lot of researchers that have performed a lot of analysis on those Bitcoins transactions. So, I mean, the amount of money is known that they made. So, yeah, usually it's enough double extortion to get the payment from the victim.